I'm not sure anyone could know everything about what's happening in industry. Were you able to sort of let go and say, you know what, I don't need to know every in and out of everything that I'm saying?
First of all, in 6 years of interviews and being on industry, no one has made that connection, and it is on the nose, great connection. Because finance was and is so foreign to me, I needed to see it in a way where it wasn't foreign. However it looks, I am making it look that way. Once I made that switch, I felt like I could do no wrong. I was calling the shots. I was making the show. Eric comes from that kind of mindset. So I went from how am I going to fit into this world to this world is the way it is because of me.
Hello and welcome to Obsessed the Podcast. I'm Matt Wilstein from the Daily Beast, and today on the show, we are talking all about one of my absolute favorite shows on television right now, HBO's Industry. In just a little bit, you're going to hear my interview with Ken Leung, who plays Eric Tao on the show and is such a great actor who you might know from Lost. He had a great episode of The Sopranos. And we also talk in our interview about his very early performance in the film Rush Hour. But first, I'm going to be joined by a fellow industry expert, fan, lover, our very great contributor to the Daily Beast. Please welcome to the show, Emma Fraser.
Hello, glad to be here.
Thanks for being here, Emma. I think people last heard you on the show talking about Hamnet. So you're kind of becoming our British movie and TV correspondent. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I'm glad to be able to put my actual nationality to use, and it's fun with a show like this that is kind of it's half American, probably more British than American, but there's definitely a lot of British elements to it.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions for you. Is this a British show, Industry? Because it takes place mostly in London, but several of the actors on it are American. The characters are American, and sort of they've added more as it's gone along as well. So what do you think? Is it a British show?
It kind of feels more like an HBO show to me. So even though it is a co-production with the BBC, it definitely feels more HBO than BBC, despite the many Brit elements. So I think it's like a marriage of both worlds. The fact Lena Dunham did the pilot, directed it. So there's that influence there. The creators are British. So I think in its DNA, it's British, but in its kind of presentation, it has this American bombastic nature to it.
So, as I said, I love this show. You've written about it for the Daily Beast, so I know that you love it as well. It does kind of feel like it's the best thing on TV that not enough people are talking about to me. I mean, it's sort of grown in popularity over it's now in its fourth season on HBO, but do you think it gets the respect that it deserves, or is it kind of too underrated at this point? What do you think?
I mean, it's definitely grown, but I think even at this point, it's too underrated, especially if we look at awards season. I'll be interested to see how it does going into the Emmys this year.
It's never really gotten much Emmy consideration, right?
No, not at all, actually. It won a couple of BAFTAs last year. It was up for a TV Critics' Choice last year. So I wonder if we're kind of eking into it getting more respect. And I think hopefully this season, because of the nature of some of the storylines and some of these really impressive performances, I think hopefully now is its time.
Yeah, one thing for me, it's like watching the show, you really have to pay attention, and I wonder if that's part of it. Is it too challenging for our scatterbrained times when people wanna, like, be watching Netflix and folding their laundry and doing 10 things at once or not really paying attention? It's like, you really have to pay attention. I mean, I don't think even paying 100% attention, you're not gonna know everything that's happening on this show, but I've also started watching, with subtitles a lot of the times, which, because it helps me, know a little bit more of what's going on because there's so much overlapping dialogue and things happening. So I think that might be part of it too, that people's attention spans are not quite ready for this show at this moment.
I agree. And I don't tend to watch with subtitles on ever, but this show I actually tend to as well because you do miss jokes because there's so much going on in the background. There's so much jargon that I don't understand. I still don't understand. But the good thing I think is you always know when something's bad or something's good. Same with something like The Pit, where I don't speak doctor, but I know when something has gone awry. And I'd say this is like that, but with a lot more drugs, a lot more sex, a lot more backstabbing. So I think even if people are maybe bit put off by the financial industry stuff, you just need to just, like, let it soak over you and
Yeah, you have
and
to let go. You have to just like accept that you're not going to know what's going on the entire show, but that's okay. And it's just the vibes are so strong and so insane. And just, yeah, and the acting is so good on this show. How would you, for anyone who's watching us or listening who has not checked it out yet and maybe wants to go back and start with season one, how would you pitch this show to somebody? Like, why should they watch it?
I mean, it's just a really I say fun time, it's probably not actually a fun time, they're all doing horrible things
There's a
to
lot of
each
darkness. Yeah.
other. There's a lot of darkness, but I think it's not just a vibe show, there's so much vibes going on, but the way the plot moves forward, you never know what's gonna happen episode to episode, like, the start of where this season begins and where it ends is completely poles apart. There's so many good friendship moments and everyone hating each other. I just think that if you're into a hangout show, this would work for you even again with the, like, jargon. But yeah, just come in for the vibes and see how you get on.
Yeah, so we're talking just before the finale airs this coming Sunday. I just watched the seventh episode last night, and I was watching it just thinking how good the acting is on this show because the there's people on the show, first of all, who just have joined in the last couple of seasons. So I was watching a scene between Kit Harrington and Max Minghella, who are two relatively new actors on the show, and just thinking I've never they're fine actors, but, like, they're so much better in this scene in the show than I've seen them in anything else, and I think that's just been true across the board for the actors on this show. It's like it gives them this chance to level up in a really interesting way. So for you watching the show this season, do you have MVPs? Is there someone who you have really been drawn to or someone who you just felt like really excelled, in this season?
Well, I think going with someone who's been there from the start, Myhala, as Harper Stern, because I know there's a bit of like a love-hate with her character because some people find her a bit cold. But I think this season in particular has kind of dug in deeper, especially her relationship with Eric. So yeah, Ken Leung is like my other MVP for sure. He is just doing things, the two of them together actually, it is like watching a tennis match with like the two best players in the world, but with meaty dialogue.
Yeah, as I said, he's our guest on this show, and they had this incredible scene too in episode 6, where they're kind of saying goodbye to each other. And there are two our two American characters, first of all, from the beginning of the show, who are really the two main characters. And in episode 6, spoiler alert, I guess we won't get into too much of the details about why he left, but Ken Lung's character Eric walks off into the suburban sunset, I think, and I feel like I wasn't sure if he was gone forever. I was also deeply confused because the little description on HBO Max said that he was in episode 7, Eric. He wasn't. So I was waiting the entire episode for him to show up. So someone messed up there. I don't know. But do you think that Eric Tao is really gone from industry for good now?
Well, the thing about this show as well is that they are very good at doing exits of characters you still love. So Harry Lorty, who played Robert Spearing, like was my favorite character. He is no longer on the show. He might come back, I guess, at some point.
Yeah, you never know.
They have so many side characters who will appear, like, throughout the season. We've had some from season 1 who've popped up. The world is so expansive, but then it goes back into itself as well because there is so much overlap. So with Eric, I would say never, but also I'm not gonna hold my breath because
Hmm.
you just never know with
Hmm.
this show.
Yeah. So I taped my conversation with Ken Lung a little bit earlier in the season, but it was fascinating for me to just listen back to it after seeing his exit because there are all these sort of breadcrumbs along the way. And he talked a lot about in our conversation about how for him, the season was really about these two relationships, him with Harper, which we see a lot of, and him with his young daughter, which we don't see a lot of. But he also revealed that they filmed some scenes with him and his daughter that didn't make it into the show, but really informed his performance. So that was a really interesting detail from him. But he's such a thoughtful actor and such a, his work is incredible on this show. People may have seen him on Lost, which was sort of where he got his breakthrough. I remember seeing him for the first time on The Sopranos, where he was in one great episode with Uncle Junior in the mental institution. So yeah, it was he's an actor who I've loved for a long time, but really has reached a whole new level on this show on industry. So it was so fun to talk with him. So we are going to go to that now, but I want to thank you, Emma, for being here and for writing for the Daily Beast about industry and everything else that you do. It's been so great talking with you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for asking. I love the show, and Emmy voters, pay attention.
Ken Leung, thank you so much for being here. It's great to see you.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you.
Yeah, on this show, we like to start really all the way at the beginning. And I want to ask you, what is the first piece of pop culture that you were really obsessed with as a kid growing up? What's something that you remember just absolutely loving?
Sesame Street?
That's a good one. What did you love about Sesame Street?
Actually, it's just started me on a whole thing. You know what I loved about the Channel 13 was the gift you got if you donated a certain amount of money.
Hmm.
You got like a bag and it had like little sometimes little Sesame Street characters or what all like just like a whole grab bag of goodies if you gave Channel 13 a certain amount. So I remember being really loving that, wishing I had money to give them.
Before we get to Industry, which is a show that I've loved from the beginning and really adore your performance on it, including in this new season, I wanted to talk about some other parts of your career, especially some firsts, starting with what I believe was your first movie that you were in, according to IMDb at least, which is Welcome to the Dollhouse.
Oh, wow.
And I'm curious about you sort of what you remember from that experience because that was such an impactful movie on me and so many people. It's sort of one of the early weird indie movies that just that had a big impact on the industry. I think.
I remember getting along with the drummer really well. And we would just um, joke around the whole shoot to the point where it really bugged that lead actor who played our singer. Um, it's just one day he just turned around and was like, "Do you guys ever stop?" And we just had a ball on that. Um, I believe that drummer is no longer an actor. I think he went on and became a lawyer or something. Um, Something much more reliable.
That was a small movie that I think ended up having, as I said, a big impact. So how did that set you up sort of for your career, do you think? Did you feel like everything was gonna be like that, or was that a very anomalous experience?
No, it was totally anomalous. I I didn't know what to make of it. I didn't expect it to get the attention that it did. I wasn't so familiar with what Sundance even was, I was happy about the attention, but I I personally don't feel my role is so small.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know that it helped or did anything. There was nobody who was like, "Oh, because we saw you in Welcome to the Dollhouse, we're thinking of you for this." It was just a nice thing to be part of.
Yeah. Then I wanna jump to the first time that I remember really seeing you and registering you as an actor, which was The Sopranos, which you had this very, memorable appearance in one episode, where you're sort of in uh the mental hospital with Uncle Junior and have this relationship with him. It was such a great storyline and such a memorable episode. Um, I imagine that was a really big deal for you to get that because that was, once The Sopranos was already a big hit and underway. So, what do you remember about sort of how you got that role and then what it was like to actually do it?
I remember the um, audition. Uh, First of all, it was written for an actor who I don't resemble. It
Mhm.
was written for he's kind of a heavy set character. And it was described in such a way where I was like, oh, he's got something, he's got a mental problem.
Hmm.
And so I had to find, I went in with something going on. Um, and I remember being in the waiting room and it was this packed waiting room and there's this feeling of nervousness or maybe I felt it and I was projecting it onto everyone. But because of that, I was like, I'm going to go in there and not do that. I'm not going to be nervous. I'm going to be different.
Hmm.
But I went in with like, I think it was like yelling and just having tics and just I didn't know what kind of mental problem I needed to have.
You were going for it.
I was just, yeah, I was just Mr. Mental Problem. Um,
I guess you did something that they were looking for.
well, it was too much, first of
Oh,
all.
okay.
And Georgianne Walken called and said, that's not what we're looking for, but we like that you went there.
Mhm.
So that's what I remember for that. Beyond that, the shooting of it and all, I really will forever be grateful for Dominic Chianese, who was just a dream of an acting partner. Um, and kind of really took me under his wing. And we had a director who had never directed before. It was his first time directing. He was a DP for Sopranos. Um, and so his direction, maybe because he was a DP, was very kind of, or I felt that it was very kind of result. It's like what he wanted to see. So I had to kind of translate his direction into actable terms, which was kind of hard.
Hmm.
And Dominic felt the same way. And so we kind of bonded over that common struggle. And just became, friends afterwards and just the sweetest man. Yeah, loved doing Sopranos.
And I believe it had a pretty big impact on your career too, because it led directly to Lost, which was sort of your first, regular, role on a TV show, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I didn't have to audition for Lost. It was because of Sopranos. Yeah.
And then what was that experience like on that show then, getting to do something where up until that point, you'd done movies, you'd done parts, you'd done, guest appearances, but this was really your first regular role on a show, right?
Yeah, good question. It evolved. Um, there is no short answer to that. It started off really kind of hard, because I'd never been to Hawaii. I'd never been away from home for that long period of time. Didn't know what to expect. Didn't, the mystery of the show and the nature of the show didn't offer me much to kind of hang my hat on. It was very vague. And I was the kind of actor who felt like I needed to know things in order
Mm.
to play the character. Um, what is what is my backstory? What am I playing? Um, and so I had to really find my way to doing without some of those answers. Once I did, and I did, eventually I did, I kind of let go and just was present.
Mm.
Um, tried to be at least. Then it was just a ball. I wasn't weighed down by shoulds, right way and wrong way of doing things. I want to be this kind of actor who knows this and that. I gave all that up, and it was a dream to be not only on the show but there.
That does kind of bring us to industry, I think, because the idea of having to know everything about what's going on in a show, I'm not sure anyone could know everything about what's happening in industry. As a viewer of it, you kind of just have to go along for the ride and accept that you're not going to get every little nuance of every detail of the financial terms and the things that everybody's talking about. I mean, maybe some people do, but I know for me, you kind of have to submit to it a little bit. So I'm curious what that's been like for you as an actor. Were you able to sort of let go and say, you know what, I don't need to know every in and out of everything that I'm saying, or do you have to know that in order to play it?
First of all, in 6 years of interviews and being on industry, no one has made that connection, and it is a on the nose great connection. So I appreciate that. As as far as industry and playing the role, it wasn't the same in that I needed to find, because finance is so was and is so foreign to me, that world. I sensed that I needed to find something inside and not outside. I'm not mimicking anybody. I'm not emulating somebody. I needed to find the place from which I can own this thing, um, despite it being foreign. I needed to see it in a way where it wasn't foreign. Not only was it not foreign, but however it looks, I am making it look that way. So I had to make that kind of switch. Once I made that switch, uh, I felt like I could do no wrong
Mm.
because I was calling the shots. I was making the show. I mean, Eric comes from that kind of mindset.
Yeah. You can't be nervous playing this character. He's very confident.
That's right. Or if he is nervous, it's because that's what's necessary, and
Mhm.
he made himself nervous. He is the master of everything. So I went from how am I going to fit into this world to this world is the way it is because of me.
Mm.
So that was the necessary. I mean, it's easy to just spell it out like that, but that took some doing. But once I was able to do that, um, yeah, it was so fun. The show is so fun to be on.
Yeah, it just seems like it's wild, and you never know where it's going to go, and it sort of changes season to season. This is the longest, period of time you ever played one character. Now, in the fourth season, how does that affect things? Sort of growing with this character, over time, and he's changed, and his role in the in the world has changed, and all of that. What has that been like for you?
It's not only is it a function of the writing has let me look at him deeper and deeper every season. Different We look at different kind of sides. Every season he has a different angle, um, a different thing he's trying to do. Um, and this latest season, this fourth season, it's totally different from the first three. What's going on inside Eric. It's almost like every season it's like four different shows. Um, so it's endlessly interesting and to play and to dig into.
Well, I think by the time people are hearing this, they will have at least been able to see the first episode of this new season, if not a little bit more. And we learned so much about where Eric is in his life and his career from this first episode. He's, quote unquote, retired, living, I think, back somewhere in America. He's playing a lot of golf, including at one point, I believe he's playing right behind someone who's referred to as 47. So I clocked that reference to to Trump, that he's sort of in that world, as opposed to this, where we are used to seeing him in London. He has some facial hair. He has a girlfriend who looks a little bit too much like Harper, Mahala's character. So there's a lot there in that first episode to tell us what's going on with him. So what was your reaction to that? Reading it and then getting to play those first few scenes.
He's suspended. I mean, it looks a certain way. It looks like he's in this retirement, kind of, uh, you know, paradise, but he's almost in a kind of fugue state, and he's suspended between the ghost of Bill and all that happened, and on one hand, and on the other hand, he has neighbors who remind him of Newman, who bore him. I mean,
Mhm.
he's running away from his kids. The first he finally has time for his kids, and he couldn't be further away from them.
Yeah.
So he's sort of in this suspended state where after, season three ends with him throwing the baseball bat that he's become so identified with. And it's almost like he's throwing away the system and his previous life and everything that that represents. Um, he's made it to the top, becoming a monster doing it, and feels basically the same. So he throws that away, and so he's left with what? Uh, I don't know. The kind of man that he is, that he wants to be. Um, the season starts off with two pivotal phone calls. One we see and one we don't.
Hmm.
The one we see from Harper, who out of nowhere magically offers him an opportunity back to the thing he knows. And the other phone call is with his daughter, who we get a glimpse or two of. But we shot a lot of scenes, or I can think of three or four scenes that didn't make the cut. I think because of time and to center the Harper Eric relationship. But there was a lot going on with his daughter that I feel drove the whole season for Eric.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Even going into business with Harper is informed by what he is trying to find a common language or way in to understanding his daughter, who, despite his negligence of her, is starting to resemble him in all the bad, all the worst ways. Um, we he asks throughout this season, he asks Harper and tries to have a different relationship. Can we talk to each other differently? Can we learn how to talk to each other differently? Can I know you differently? And part of that is for Harper, but I think part of that is to learn something about how to reach 13-year-old girl who is his daughter that he knows nothing about, but is now starting to resemble all the worst sides of him. So that really is, it's really interesting because what we see is informed by what we don't.
Yeah, that seems like a real gift as an actor to be able to play those scenes. It's probably kind of you might wish that we could see them, but that the fact that you got to have those experiences, those conversations, that are informing everything else.
Totally, totally. I mean, it's almost like a shadow story
Hmm.
that, it's really neat.
You said that experience with his daughter is part of what sort of drives him back to work, back to Harper in some ways. What do you think is bringing him back?
I think his daughter is the whole season,
Yeah.
trying to reach her, trying to find a way to reach her, to understand her, because she's like a mirror to him, and he doesn't like that particular reflection. So he's changing. Um, I think when he's in a play, he no longer has the distractions of being employed
Mhm.
or all the machinations at work. He doesn't have any of that. He's running away from that. But the one thing that he's never looked at is in trouble. So that brings him back. Um, Echoed by Harper being in trouble.
Hmm.
Um, so I think he sees it as, his this is my chance. This is my chance to kind of redeem myself after I succeeded so brilliantly in becoming a monster. This is how I undo that.
Looking back on your career, are there things that you would tell yourself when you were first starting out in this business that you wish you had known, or something that you just advice you would sort of give yourself if you were starting again?
There's so much noise in this business. Um, just on the surface, when you step onto a set, there's hundreds of people who are busy. And people are fixing your hair and straightening your clothes, and while this person is telling you this and that person's asking you that. So there's a lot of noise. Um, and even this, the press part of it, you know, not that that's noise, but you're being pulled in different directions and different
Hmm.
things are asked of you. So that can create an internal noise. Um, and I would say to that younger me to given that, to really, because sometimes it may be difficult to hear, but don't lose your line with that voice
Hmm.
of what you're here for, why you're here for it. Um, keep an open line to that voice, because there will be a lot of factors that are going to try to, not consciously, but because of their nature, pull you this way and that and be distracting.
When you look back, is there anything that you said no to at the time that you now kind of wish you had said yes to?
I've said no to a lot of things.
Really?
Yeah, because I get a lot of, or I used to, maybe not so much anymore. I used to get a lot of roles that uh, seem exactly the same. It's
Hmm.
always this inexplicably angry, evil henchman or triad boss,
Yeah.
or vaguely Asian sounding bad guy.
Yeah. From some sort of gang.
Yeah, yeah. All for years and years and years, almost as if all the scripts are of the same character. So I've said no to a lot of those, but I don't think of things that way. I don't like, if I don't get a role, I somebody else is supposed to get that role, and if I knew why, I would probably support that.
It's a good way to look at it.
I mean, there are roles where you need to draw from, sometimes often actually personal stuff, that in playing that role helps you resolve something, or helps you maybe face something that you don't want to in real life. But because of the safety of the fictional world, of the imagination world, you're able to face that thing or look at that thing, and that enriches you as a human being. So there are roles that is meant for somebody else to resolve, and not for me to resolve. Um, so yeah, I think the roles I end up getting to play, I'm supposed to,
Hmm.
and the ones that I don't, I'm not supposed to.
One of those early roles that sort of may fall in that category you were talking about is in the original Rush Hour movie. I was curious about your reaction to this news that now there's going to be a Rush Hour 4 requested personally by President Trump with his friend Brett Ratner. Uh, did you hear about that and what do you think about that?
I don't know what to think of it. I mean, I'm long dead. So
You're not going to be in it.
yeah, so I'm not going to be in it. Um, and nothing surprises me with this. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what to think of it.
Did you have a good experience making that movie, or was it a challenge? Or
Yeah, I both. It was a challenge, and I had an amazing experience. It was my first real thing,
Mhm.
and Brett has this magical way of making you feel really comfortable instantly, and I'll always be grateful to him for that. I felt like I belonged.
Mm.
And I didn't really. It's my first, I'd never done anything like this before, but
Yeah.
he made me feel like I belonged there. He wanted me there, and I could go as extreme as I wanted with the role. Um, he made me feel very, uh, he made a very young, insecure actor feel very comfortable.
Well, maybe it's for the best that you don't have to make the decision about whether or not you would be in the Rush Hour 4.
Yeah. Unless it's, set in some alternate reality.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Are there things that are still on your career bucket list, like types of roles or types of projects that you really want to do that you haven't been able to?
Not really, but I don't think of it as a list like that. I'm a I feel like I'm a listener. Like, this needs you to give it shape or give it voice. your need, it fills this need, and you can do it. Other people can do it, but you can do it. So this is where I belong now. Okay, I'll be part of this story, to serve that, because when that voice is heard, it's gonna somebody needs to hear it. Somebody somewhere needs to hear it, like really needs to hear it. And so I feel like I feel that kind of call to roles, not so much this kind of role or that kind of role. Um, Having said that, I have played a lot of um, um, roles that characters who on the surface look a certain way. They're loud, or they're intense, or they're, there's that quality to it. I would love to go I would love to play a role that would necessitate looking deeper, into what that's about. I
Hmm.
mean, Eric is a great example. Eric allows me to do that.
Yeah.
So not Eric, the specifics of Eric, but the the movement of Eric as a character. I love that. I would love to do more of that. Um, where he has a baseball bat, which is a sign of power, but is also a sign of insecurity. So that duality
Hmm.
is really interesting to play with. Um, he's season 4 opens with him seemingly in the place where everyone reaches for this retirement, uh, dream life, but he's tortured inside. He's actually hiding out from something. So that duality is really interesting to play. So roles like that.
Hmm. We have a segment on this podcast called Unmissable, where we talk about just things that are unmissable in pop culture right now. If people could only watch one thing that you've made, what do you think it should be?
Whoa. One thing that I've made. I don't think is it cheating to say I haven't made it yet?
I like that answer.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that.
Is there anything you think people should miss?
Oh wow. But then once I say it, that's the first thing they're gonna see. Yeah, there was a show called Deception. It was called something else, but I think they changed it a few times. I think they ultimately landed on Deception. I don't think it lasted much. I played an FBI boss,
Oh.
and partially it was the way it was written, and partially it was me. But I didn't know what to do with it, and I think it shows.
Hmm.
Like, I think, you know, I don't know what, like when I say serving a purpose, I don't know, that probably served no purpose.
Yeah.
Playing that role.
I have to admit I did miss that one.
I mean, there to be frank, there are a few.
Yeah. Well, we can stick to one.
Yeah.
We started this conversation by talking about the first piece of pop culture that you were obsessed with. What's something in pop culture that you are obsessed with right now? Is there something that you're just loving that you've seen, or just something that really connected with you?
Well, it's not right now, but I really loved Adolescence last year.
Yeah, unbelievable.
I love the idea of getting into a car with a character, going somewhere far, doing stuff, coming back home, and you're just there the whole time. There's no cuts. I love
Yeah.
that living with them, um, concept. Aside from how brilliant everyone was,
Mhm. You
um,
would wanna do something like that where you were, doing the full episode in one take?
I'd love to. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
love to.
It's very cool. Yeah. Well, Ken Leung, thank you so much for being here and doing this. Industry Season 4 is airing Sunday nights on HBO and streaming on HBO Max. It's such a fantastic show. Anyone who has not caught up with it, please do, because it's so great and you're so great on it. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Matt.
All right. Thank you so much to Ken Leung for being my guest on this show. It's still yet to be seen whether we'll be seeing more of him on Industry, but I am holding out hope, and I am not holding out hope for his appearance in Rush Hour 4. Thank you to Emma Fraser for being here as well and talking with me about Industry. You can find her writing on The Daily Beast. Please follow us on YouTube at the Obsessed channel. Leave us comments. Let us know what you love about the show. Ask us questions. And please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. We want to hear from you. Thank you to our producers, Devin Rogerino and Rachel Passer, and we'll be back with a new episode very soon.